Hey Arturo, how's it going?
Hey Peter, I'm getting you.
Sound is not coming through. Oh, that does because I muted it.
Oh.
Hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Oh no. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh, I know what. That's probably why. No, it's on me. There we go.
Do you hear me?
Ooh, okay. Then this is okay. This needs to get plugged into Nix. Give me one. See, this is why we have the pre-launch. This gets plugged. Give me 1 second. Here. Sound. Okay, output. Input is in. Input control input level. Okay. Output is internal speakers. All right, can you hear us?
Yes, perfect.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah. To the. Wait, this is my wife, Sandra.
Hello.
I'm just gonna plug
Hello.
this thing into yours.
You hear me?
That's the best way. This thing. Audio. Mic is this internal speaker. All right, mic check.
Hello.
There we go.
Good.
There we go.
Got it.
How do we sound on your end?
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
we just
good.
played with some equipment.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right here. I don't know if you can see what Peter's got going on here.
Okay, so you have whole new things. A lot of new toys.
This is a Rodecaster Mixer Pro.
It's not Peter's first rodeo.
But in the meantime, I still have to command some stuff.
Are we pretending to be in the green screen right now?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I have to do this.
Okay.
There we go. Wow, Jerry, you can still hear us, right?
Yeah, yes.
Going down on credit card debt there?
What's that?
Is that Shrek going down on credit card debt?
Yeah, imagine.
There you go. So 49. I think at five we'll do the countdown.
Sure.
And then I'll cue up our theme song. Eventually it'll be here, but
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Is there any even real point to this?
Not for now. It's just for looks.
it's just beautiful.
By the next show, though, there will 100% be a point to this.
Got it.
All right, we are live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, welcome to another delicious and interesting. We're here bringing you the best brain debate. My name is Nick Larson, true entrepreneur and ambitious speech bum.
And my name is Peter Wayne, brand community manager at Intel, as well as social media guru or guy or person.
And we love demystifying emerging tech, being valuable to our founders and investors and technologists in the community. It's Tuesday, February 7th. We want to do a quick shout out to a couple sponsors that we have. Arturo from Narcotics, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick, and thank you for the heads up. We're really happy right now because we just signed a new client from the San Francisco area that they're going to have their software development team here in Mexico. They are taking advantage of having the same time zone, same cultural affinity, and an excellent talent and an excellent cost. So if anyone in the audience is looking to start or grow their software development team, they can also get in touch with me, or they can look us through your website in necodex.com. That is NECODEX.com. we are working with several companies in the area, and we'll be very happy to assist anyone. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Arturo, thank you so much. This is Nicodex.com. They've done amazing work building digital products, be it web or mobile, for Bazinta and for SciPoc and some of the great folks as well. Also want to do a quick shout out for our friends at Pienaar Negocios, who can help you get local clients. So for digital marketing, these are the folks to talk to. Their link will be in our show notes. And without any further ado,
one more thing.
Oh yeah, please.
Everyone see this QR code over here? Like, I'm going to get so good at pointing to this
right.
at one point. If you wanted to subscribe to our newsletter comes out monthly, and it basically puts our thoughts down on paper. You'll get to hear our point of view on other things outside of tech. Sometimes we talk about politics, maybe. Sometimes
yeah, it's a saucy. That's right. So
Pop culture.
Be sure to check that out. And we're super jazzed today to have our guest Maria Pienaar. Welcome, Maria, to the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And so Maria has a super impressive background, both as an entrepreneur herself and now as an angel, and also at Unicorn Growth Capital. So super cool stuff that she's doing. And so we're going to be exploring a little bit about your background and lessons for our founders. But Maria, before we get things kicked off, you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in South Africa. I was part of so I studied engineering, was part of the launch team of pretty much the mobile industry with Vodafone in South Africa, which became the model for also mobile on the continent. As a result, I got recruited to Silicon Valley in 96, was part of the team that launched Globalstar, which was one of the pre-Starlink
Wow, cool.
satellite mobile services. So that was quite a lot of fun. And was quite privileged to have been with startups with very deep pockets and funding behind them, which is always great. But then focusing quite a lot now on investments in Africa through Unicorn Growth Capital. I'm an operating partner with them, and be focusing on Web3 and fintech companies in not just Africa, but emerging markets. So Africa is exciting. It's quite a growth market. It's a high youth type of market in all the different countries, and it's one of the most misunderstood in areas for investment and growth as well.
So a lot of room for opportunity. So the IoT space, cybersecurity, enterprise software, it sounds like you've been able to span a number of different verticals.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite fortunate throughout my career that I got involved in quite a number of things. I mean, obviously, when you're in the telco mobile industry, one of the things that you look at is quite broad, especially when you're looking at how do you bring in partnerships that add value. So always have to look at all the different trends. You know, I always say companies start running into identity crises when they try to be the product for everyone and everything.
Oh, wow.
All the M words, you know, first the mobile companies wanted to be mobile entertainment companies. That didn't go too well. Then they wanted to be mobile banks. Couldn't compete really with the banks, but it did stimulate a lot of wallets and mobile. I always say tongue-in-cheek, the first fintech industry was the text messaging industry.
Right.
So I was quite a lot involved with actually defining the models that especially stimulated the application to person text messaging trends, which is still a growth market. So that came from Africa. But just having had that broad reach across so many different things and trends, and how as mobile carriers you need to look at how you add value into your partnerships with disruptors, really had me look quite broadly.
Yeah, and especially when a lot of the infrastructure was probably not built out either. How did you manage that?
Well, that was quite incredible. At Vodacom, we became the first mobile carrier that broke even in 18 months, which was unheard of at the time. We had really good vendors that helped to scale because we had to build out a number of base stations. You know, so you've got to build out your coverage. You've got to look at your customer service. You've got to have all your billing platforms in place when you launch.
Yeah.
So how do you scale that and make your operations quite efficient? So yeah, that was just really good partnerships with our vendors that enabled us to do that.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned not being everything to everyone. We've got a friend, Payam Miasmandi, who's the CEO of Unibui. In fact, he's been on the show before, and he was in a critical meeting with the Community College Organization of California, and they said, well, can you do this? And he said flat out no. And on one level, it's kind of I don't want to say aggressive because you're like defining what you do, but there's also probably a likelihood to want to be like, sure, we could do that and then figure it out on the back end. But I think what they did is they appreciated he was just staying in his lane.
Yeah.
Have you had a similar scenario when talking to startups?
Yeah, and one of the I think aspects that I've seen sometimes investors do is they take a startup where they have a very good focus, and especially early growth stage startups. Again, we're focusing on pre-seed through Series A.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the early growth startups. And a lot of the time, investors want to see the real big thing happening, say maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, and start pushing these startups into new areas and new modes, which the company is still barely trying to survive and get product market fit with their core product, and then already starting to be asked to focus on different areas. I think that's just a death knell,
Right.
because you just can't be focusing on multiple industries at the same time unless you have a real good core product and a platform to build from.
So sorry to interject here then, but is there a reason when startups should draw the hard line, would you say, and how do you differentiate from just them exploring early on to see which vertical they do fit in?
Look, so
Question.
they should focus on the different verticals that they fit in, which is why I always like a scouting phase, but especially if they're starting with the initial problem set. And so today it is so much easier than earlier years where you can actually go and explore without really huge cost implications, just really understanding what's the problem that your customer have and how do you actually solve that. Now, what I've come across with a lot of early growth stage startups is, especially the ones who love to talk about their technology first, is they're quite confused about where this fits in. And some of them actually can, by doing that scouting process, actually understand this is where my key customers are. Customers can as well, versus large customers, completely suck that company up and push them in different directions. So it is a bit of a balance that they need to play, but I would say just really stick, once you start seeing that there's a specific low-hanging fruit that you can start building on top, is pursue that and just show how you can drive scale, because investors want to see how you can build scale. If there's other product lines that then can come in, and then you have larger teams, sales teams and technology teams that can focus on that, then that's fine to start exploring that too, but don't do it too prematurely. The key focus for early growth stage is to understand where they can get that product and how fast they can get to that product market fit.
Right, and their domain expertise, like kind of let them drive as opposed to trying to like pull the wheel in a specific direction.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, I mean, if the products are complementary to what the core of their, as I say, their identity is, then you can add additional value on that. If it's quite far removed, it takes a whole new team to focus on that.
Well, how's unicorn growth different from other VCs? Are you kind of, how are you different?
Well, I'm not sure if we're so different in the model that we implement, but I believe where we are have quite a lot of strengths with regards to the African market. Is we all come, the investment team all come from the African market, from both banking as well as the mobile industry. And having been serial entrepreneurs in fintech, I mean, one of our principals in Kenya was quite key to the growth of Jumia on the continent. And then all of us have also worked in large developed markets for large corporates, global corporates here in the US as well. So it's that operational and on-the-ground understanding of the market, which I think gives us quite a good benefit on how we do due diligence. And a part of our mission is also to start building stronger pipeline and stronger relations with US investors that's looking at the continent as well.
Mm. And when you're driving innovation, because you do have this impressive background in the enterprise space, but you're also working quite a bit with early stage startups. Which side do you see driving more value towards from an innovation perspective, and what are you learning from each respective side?
Well, I would say both, and I want to go back to the mobile industry. If you look at the number of startups the mobile industry has stimulated, I don't think in our wildest dreams when we started the mobile industry in Africa, we would have ever dreamt about just the plethora of companies that came from that. So if you have a platform like a mobile carrier, now a mobile carrier has a couple of things. It can count bits and bobs to billing at scale. It has huge distribution. I mean, just the way that we implemented prepaid and established that distribution channel, that you can actually go, you're two people removed from being able to buy airtime anywhere in Africa.
Wow.
So if you as a startup understand how to leverage that platform, I mean, when we look at the text messaging, especially the application to person type of text messaging applications, the first thing we did was set up a model of tiered pricing and revenue share with a very simple API. The onboarding process was very simple for companies to get through the approval process and to start offering new services using text messaging in the initial phases. And that then just obviously built from all the other types of services that the mobile carriers enabled. I mean, we look at Safaricom as well with the mobile money. They're one of the leaders in that.
Is that a competitor to Flutterwave by chance?
No, Safaricom is one of the partners of Flutterwave. But again, they enabled a lot of the mobile customers, to get access to their mobile money products. So obviously the payment gateways, the way Flutterwave built the infrastructure, which a lot of third parties use, but they partner with a lot of the mobile carriers as well.
I see.
So it's really understanding when you're looking at building large-scale distribution on who are those large partners who enable you to reach huge, large audiences.
Yeah, growing quickly.
And banks the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. So on your LinkedIn, it says Scout, integrate, launch. Sorry,
Yes.
Scale.
Launch. Yeah.
Launch.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the scouting piece. Help us understand the last two components and how those fit in.
Yes. So when it comes to integrate, it's always, I would say, especially if you use large corporates to scale through, like a mobile carrier or a bank, it's always the round hole in a square peg and vice versa dilemma that you sit with. A lot of the large companies that can enable huge distribution, in InsurTech, you're looking at insurance companies, they have a lot of legacy IT stacks, and they have a lot of priorities with regards to how they can integrate new disruptors. And they may not have all the APIs exposed. So the more that the company can, as I say, this large company could be the square peg and the startup can be the round hole. The more the round hole can pretend to look like the square peg and do all the heavy lifting on their side, that's how you start jumping through the IT prioritization to be able to launch the products.
I assumed it was more cultural than technical, the big challenges.
For me, it's more the technical challenges. It could be cultural as well. I mean, in a way, sometimes you have the cultural clash between the technology teams and the marketing teams, right?
Security and whatnot.
Security and whatnot. So definitely, and that's part of the discovery phase, especially when you're looking at as a startup with these large distribution channels like mobile carriers or banks, is understand where the friction points lie and how you can actually bypass that. And that whole integration means look at your whole value chain of how you integrate with that distribution channel and how do you take out the friction and not wait for that large company to take those friction points
So it's
out.
like proactive knowledge management. Peter, do you have any insight into how Intel approaches leveraging smaller technologies or younger companies into their stack?
I know that, so not particularly actually, because we don't have a good track record of working with startups, just because when Intel has been around for such a long time, and working with like early stage companies, there's always a risk, especially if they're dealing with company data. If there's no guarantee that this company that we're going to be working with will be around for, let's say, like 20, 30 years.
Sure.
So is the data that Intel's going to be dealing with going to be safe for that long? So
that's a good point.
When I actually have experience with this, because when we would look into working with, like, for example, influencer marketing agencies, they have to apply to be in the Intel preferred vendor.
Okay.
And once they get in, though, Intel only works with them.
Got it.
So when it's almost like a
so they can't take additional capital, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen something similar, Maria, from a corporate venture capital perspective?
Yeah, I've seen similar models. I think it's all over the world.
Sure.
My preference is more they work with the companies that have a open innovation platform. I mean, I've done quite a bit of corporate innovation consulting as well around open innovation models, where how do you get larger companies to have a sandbox environment so that you can basically pilot with more of the disruptors out there. But the picture,
can we double click on that and help us understand like what that means, that a sandbox? How do you get them on board?
Yeah. So give you an example. When I established a corporate venture in South Africa, where we were looking at how to also help accelerate through the large enterprise customers of this corporate.
Driving revenue really quickly.
Yeah,
cool.
Because I mean, this corporate came with, I don't know, all the large enterprises, which were their customers. But how do you bring startups in that add value to the core business, that adds value to the enterprise customers?
So like a tricky puzzle.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if the original company can't solve the problem, is there a startup that does it, and we're able to white label?
Yes, because as I say, you can't be the be all and end all of anything. So and remember, there's always two sides of a corporate. So there's the supply chain side, where your technology platform becomes part of the core technology platform of the company. And the other part is obviously being a partner, where your technology gets integrated in adding value to what that business
That sounds
does.
actually very familiar, because I mean, that's kind of this is exactly what Intel does.
Yeah.
In a way.
and so basically is when you're looking at sandboxing and what would add value, it's how do you set up the structures which makes it easier for the business units to also then take that and add value to their specific product lines.
Like specifically the developer community, like it's one of the reasons Slack has had so much success, I think.
And same with Salesforce as well. Early on with Nokia, Symbian, the Symbian developer community, that was the first open.
So it sounds like going in, invigorating a community to help basically be a brand advocate for you by empowering them to play around with. Oh, I get it. Like it's sandbox.
Yeah. and the sandbox is really the testing environment to pilot some of the ideas. And I've even seen large energy companies. Now here you talk about, if you do a pilot, it's large nuts and bolts type systems, and that needs to be done right.
This reminds me of actually Microsoft and their product Unity, because Unity is a it's a graphics or graphics rendering software. People use it. They make video games. They make metaverse products. All of that is essentially built on top of, what was it, like
Unreal, is it, or is that a
no, Unreal's a competitor. All of that is built on top of either their data service or someone else's.
Right.
But speaking of video games, actually, Jessica asked, wanted to know, are there video game offer walls to leverage in Africa?
Yeah, a lot of it is through the mobile carriers. So I know Safaricom, Vodafone, MTN has offer basically paywalls also for games. So they have their own portals that they've set up as well for this. I know, especially in the VR and AR space, there's a lot of new portals that's being established. But as I say, that's the one thing mobile carriers do exceptionally well, is able to bill and collect money. So, especially if it's prepaid, right? So the revenue share models have been established, even way before Apple, when they started with the Apple stores and the Symbian Play stores.
And speaking of which, Apple's kind of potentially under some hot water because their app store takes like 30%. Speaking of, and back to video games, you mentioned that the model is changing a little bit. We were talking about this earlier. Do you want to
we definitely
speak to that real quickly?
We were actually having this talk where I was talking about my gripe. I still play video games. I love it, and I've noticed.
Nerd alert!
I know, right? Boop. We'll do that later. When I was growing up, I've noticed that video games were focusing a lot on story. Nowadays, because of companies like Zynga, because of companies like Steam, like Microsoft, the model is almost flipped around. Instead of paying up front for the game, it's free to download, but eventually they coinify or they gamify certain features within the game. Have you seen that model like working really like
Angry Birds?
Yeah.
I was just telling Nick, I was I had also the privilege to be part of the Finnish Innovation Center that we established, which was all about how do we do different accelerator models to establish Finnish companies globally, and we were focusing on the US market. So yeah, that was one of our first cohort in this new acceleration program was Rovio Mobile.
Oh, very cool.
And
they are just killing it.
Angry Birds. So yeah, I can remember when it was
a
blink in the eyes, and again we used the scouting principle to really have lots of conversation with the studios and other distribution channel partners, because they wanted to Hollywoodize games so that these additional things that they could sell either through the game or outside the game, i.e. the movies. So it was that scouting and 3 months, 4 months immersion in back and forth meetings that helped hone the model for them, which they said, this is the model that we're going for. And the rest is history, right? So they were the first ones that started doing these, let's just say, tokenization of specific features as well within the app.
Right. And then there's a follow-up question from Jessica as well.
Are there other tactics you recommend for overseas companies to leverage?
Tactics with regards to market entry, or can you just expand, Jessica?
Yes, it's a good question.
Let's start with market entry.
Sure.
Yeah. So market entry for me is, whether you entering a market in your own home country or another country, is just go spend some time in the market, engage with the ecosystem, understand the potential visa and legal requirements if you will need to establish a team there, understand your tax and regulatory environment, so engage with experts in that space, engage with potential customers, but not pitching them on what you're looking at doing, understanding how they solve the problem that you are solving, because that always opens up a conversation of, okay, how do you guys solve the same problem? This is what we've been doing. And always ask how they, especially if these are corporate and large enterprise customers, is what are their budget cycles and how that works. That's one question a lot of startups tend to miss. Because you can, by doing that, you quickly can understand how do you get to market, what's the sales, what's the team that you need to establish in that market in order to grand scale, and also what's the support team that you need to establish and grow back at your headquarters, that will make that team successful.
I can also imagine certain habits of your end consumer as well. A good example is that here in the US, Intel and other fairly old companies are actually doing pretty well on new platforms like TikTok,
because they've got people like you.
Oh, yeah, granted, if you're able to craft a message that hits well enough.
Yeah.
However, in China, if Intel were to advertise on Douyin or like Chinese TikTok, that would be brand suicide, because China is still fairly, I guess, their society is fairly hierarchical in the sense that like certain media are for certain brands. Intel is considered a high level brand there.
Yeah.
It has no business doing.
So we're a little bit more progressive in that capacity. Would you say? Or
Actually, I would say so. I definitely like the idea. Me personally, I like the idea of being in every like having my pick of like certain platforms.
Yeah.
I definitely don't like the idea of being constrained by societal pressures to not use a certain app.
In some markets, you do need to understand the cultural nuances as well. Like, Africa, a lot of people think, oh, it's this one big continent, 1.3, 1.4 billion people. Its youth, most 55% in most countries is below the age of 28. So, but there's huge differences in how you do business in the different markets. So you've got to understand that. Now, obviously, some of the exceptions are some of the SaaS-based companies, i.e., like Netflix, where you pay by credit card. But again, if you can't pay,
Wait, so you're telling me that how they do business in Egypt is wildly different than South Africa?
Hugely, right? There's different aspects of things. So I think the one that's
included.
Right? I think the one, and again, you have to remember as well. In South Africa, we sit with 11 official languages. And I can remember when I was a CIO for one of the mobile carriers there, we were having a bit of a problem. And this is also an important thing. You've got to understand language and define the terms. So we had a specific problem with delivery of a software development that was supposed to be done. And the day came and it was not the right thing. And I just sat there, went round the table and said, but what did each one of you, because I sat with all 11 of the local languages, people in different cultures, Mandarin and Hindi and Urdu. So I had 14 different language cultures there around the table in this engineering team. And they forgot, the project manager or program manager forgot to define the terms that everyone understood what the term meant, even from their cultural perspective.
Oh, no.
That's kind of ironic, because like defining the terms feels like one of the very first things you do. Like if we can't agree on terms, how can we agree on anything else, right?
Yes, and what's the definition? But you will be surprised how many times that gets missed, because when you develop it from your language context. And it's something that I couldn't impress more on companies who deal with diverse language teams and cultures. Make sure you keep the language simple and everyone understand blue means that's your not something else.
So we covered the Scout. We also covered the integrate.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the launch component.
So the launch component for me is really that now you can really open the tabs and really launch. Obviously, in some cases, you need to make sure that your platform can scale with all the load that you may want to put at it. So hopefully the foundation of the platform is quite good. But then just to give you some example, my recent trip to South Africa, I was chatting to a new large insurance company, and they've got a corporate VC which is now focusing on an open innovation model, right? And they started working with one startup which is in the KYC business side, an aspect for onboarding.
And what's
digital,
KYC?
Know your customer. So anything in financial transactions, there's a regulation globally about know your customer. It's part of the anti-money laundering. So when you digitally onboard someone that you know it's Maria, you need to vet that person in a certain way. And this, after integration into this company, when they pulled that switch, they immediately had 100,000 customers thrown at them.
Wow.
So that
sounds daunting, but also like really exciting.
Like a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. So yeah, when you're looking at that launch phase, there's a couple of check boxes that you need to ensure that are there. Is can you throw a scale? If you start opening up your leads generation, can your team handle it?
Execute,
because
right.
some things may break, right?
Yeah.
How fast can they then execute on that? If you go through these large, especially the carriers, and you start marketing campaigns there to millions of customers, can you handle the load?
So you probably have quite a bit of experience in being able to distinguish between hype and a legitimate, sustainable business
Hype
model.
and trend.
Hype and trend. Yeah, that sounds a lot catchier. I like that. So tell us about Chat GPT and blockchain. What's on the
blockchain? That's so 2010.
Well, I mean, it may be 2010, but it's huge still. I mean, some technologies just technologies take a long time, and trends take a long time to evolve, 20, 30 years, right? It may have started in 2010, but I mean, now if we're looking at the different types of blockchain protocols available, I think there's 19 last time I counted. There's a lot of different aspects that it enables now around supply chain management, smart contract. We're seeing a lot around that. AR, VR, right? The metaverse wasn't just born a couple years back when Facebook said we're doing this metaverse thing. There was a metaverse called Second Life in 2000.
Oh, I remember. I used to buy Bitcoins on there.
2006, 2007. Right?
Yeah.
Which they didn't have the technology we have now to really scale, but there's a lot of learnings from that that can now be applied in the different metaverses. So when we did the Finnish Innovation Center, we always looked at what's the trends that's coming down the line and look at how we use government funding to stimulate new research and entrepreneurship in those trends. So for me, when you're looking at the trend, the hype would be, IoT.
Sure.
It was another hype. 5G is another
edge
hype.
computing or whatever.
Blockchain, and now it's AI. Everything is AI. So a lot of the time as an investor, when you sit there, you have startups who think that when they throw these buzzwords at you,
buzzword bingo,
to invest, the hype, right? And you get a lot of the follow-on of the fear of missing out investment as well. So for me, it's just really understanding how those trends would apply, and hopefully as much as you can look in the glass bowl and see when that may mature. But a lot of blockchain is still on the huge development side, and we are starting to see huge traction now, especially in the more reasonable applications versus crypto.
Right. You mentioned supply chain management. In fact, Unity Central, which is I'm the chief revenue officer of, we recently closed Meta as a customer in managing their supply chain.
Congratulations!
Process. Yeah, pretty excited. It's like a week before Christmas, so it's a nice little. And the whole thing is like, have you tried the goggles by chance, the Oculus?
The new one.
Yeah, well, I think they've had a couple. There's a
Quest 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so essentially, to make a long story short, when Meta or Facebook wanted to do an inventory check, they had to, it was like write something down and check with somebody, and it would come back like 4 or 5 days later, pretty siloed. So blockchain is like a pretty great application there, especially when it comes to ESG compliance, which is obviously pretty important too.
Yeah.
So what are the triggers for the irrational exuberance of hype, or what have you seen in the past?
Well, I mean, crypto, I can go back to that, right? Everyone tried to do crypto and crypto coins, and then they were the ICOs for investment in companies.
Just like
right?
a fast track to jail time.
Fast track.
In some cases.
Well, not just fast track to jail time. I mean, when you look at some of the
with
independent coin offerings from an investment perspective, it was just really crazy, where companies expected you to invest in a coin and there's no proper valuation metrics or anything behind that. So
Or oversight.
So are you saying Dogecoin's not a good idea?
That might be the outlier, just because like the brand sway that Musk has,
There might be someday a good use for Dogecoin,
but we're not holding our breath.
but we're not holding our breath. So it's really is for me is I always like to look at the sustainability a company can build and how they use a trend and not start falling into the hype.
What does that mean, building sustainability? Operationally or roadmap? Or
It's operationally, how do you scale your team? How do you determine product market fit? What's the traction that you're building? Can you hit your metrics? Coming back to hype a bit.
Yeah.
When was the .com.bomb?
Right.
It was in 1990s, where everyone was like, "Oh, the new economy is all about eyeball economy," and everyone went pets.com. Everyone went down that route, and there was no basic foundation for a lot of those companies to how they generate revenues.
Right.
So thank heavens it started after the .com.bomb started going back, and crypto in a way stimulated that, especially from investment in a fear of missing out in a lot of the exchanges, and we know where that ended up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but what excites me still about some of the trends is, and around AI as well with Chat GPT, it's amazing to see where the natural language programming AI has actually gone to, and my mind boggles on all the good uses for it.
Yeah, like legally, I heard a judge just this week had cited Chat GPT for a court ruling, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
And it's then how do you apply that as a tool? Technology is neutral. It either will be used for good or for bad, because you're dealing with humans and the nature of humans that's utilizing it,
Yeah. It's
it's like a pen doesn't write your essay, a knife doesn't stab it anyway.
Right,
It's the person behind it.
And then that's why I say it's even with you, when you look at text messaging, right? It's stimulated so much good things from it, but then there were a whole bunch of, in Africa, I always joke and say there's 3 types of entrepreneurs. There's the entrepreneur, then there's the tenderpreneur. Now this is the third-party grifter in government supply chain.
Is that like a wantrepreneur, or is that something different?
And then there's a social fraudpreneur.
Oh, wow.
Right, and the social fraudpreneurs are the ones who's been dealing, the Nigerian diamond scams, all those things, social dating scams who look at how they can apply social engineering to steal money from people. And it's all of them use the same technology base.
Yeah.
Social media has done all good.
Sure.
And it's done bad. So same with Chat GPT. There's a lot of great uses for it, and there is a lot of bad uses for it. So how do we as founders and investors help build the ethics in that will ensure that these amazing technologies the human mind can't even comprehend
are used for good.
Make sure people don't ruin it for us.
Right.
Can be used for good, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I don't recall who the dictator was. I want to say it was Gaddafi, but he had said that Twitter was the biggest threat to despots, like everywhere. Obviously, like there's a lot of goofy stuff that happens on Twitter too. But speaking of useful technology, we've got Dr. Amos here. So Dr. Amos is a neuroscientist. We're going to have him come and pitch to Maria real briefly here. So Dr. Amos, can you hear us okay? Paging Dr. Amos. I think we need to. You need to unmute the mic.
Yeah, he's currently muted right now.
Okay.
And we have a video as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait for Dr. Amos. Oh, hey, here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
You're still on mute.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Nick.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here with you on the show as always, and also I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Can you help me out?
Pienaar.
Am I saying it right? Quinoa?
Pienaar.
Pienaar. All right. Thank you very much for the insight. So I'm a physician by training. I'm a neurosurgeon. I've practiced for almost 25 years. And during that time, I've been personally challenged by our outdated technology platform for coordinating patient care. And I became involved with MedMatch Network as the CEO and founder. And our mission, our goal has been to create an electronic cloud-based platform to help facilitate patient referral management, and most importantly, secure information exchange. So that's what we're building at this time. We have certainly faced some challenges, and listening to you, it resonates very well. We will be considered early startup, but that's pretty much where we are. Where we're looking to go, what we've done so far is build a SaaS platform, and we're integrating that with a patient-facing application. In essence, to create a buzzword Web3 experience for the patient. This is where technology is going. This is where policy is going, and this is where economics is going. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
How much are you raising? And Maria, any follow-up questions as an investor?
Yeah, I mean, so would be good to understand a little bit more about what's the problem you solve for whom. So who is your customer?
Yes.
And what's the problem?
Right. So the problem is outdated technology, which leads to inefficiencies in patient management, electronic management. So we're still using the fax machine, the phone to coordinate patient care. We now have electronic health records. Almost every doctor has it now, but they don't communicate. So which makes it even harder. So we have fragmented records. It leads to a very inefficient, expensive, costly process. Patients are frustrated, providers are frustrated. So our customers, foremost the providers and ancillary service providers, such as labs, custodial services, but the patients benefit, and patients are our customers as well.
Okay, and so what would be good to do? Because I mean, these days, literally, when you need to try and grab the attention of investors, I think Doxim did some statistics. When they browse through a pitch deck, they spend about, on average, a minute 20 seconds on that deck, making up their mind whether they may want to engage with you or not. So the more you can quantify the size of the problem and the impact it has for your key customer, that helps us understand that you really understand the dynamics of the problem that you're dealing with. So I can understand that it's old technology people are using, but why are they not using something else? Is it because it's totally missing, or there's a problem with adoption, or so just help paint that picture a little bit better.
Absolutely. So traditionally, medicine is a very traditional and conservative profession. In general, doctors are slow to adopt technology. That's a fact. As a physician for 25 years, so that's some of the problem that we face. But also, we're dealing with sensitive information, patient privacy, and these type of things. Also, people are very cautious about embracing technology that may lead to breach of privacy or data. So those are some of the challenges in the field in general.
Yeah.
That said, as we progress with technology and security, etc., it's becoming much easier to be able to establish this type of platform and do it securely to overcome the fears.
And when you say you're using Web3, what aspects of Web3 technologies are you using to solve the problem?
Well, we really are empowering the patient to own their data. So as in Web3, where we're decentralizing data, if you will, for a long time, the big giants of Cerna, Allscript, and eClinical hover these electronic health records. There's now legislation allowing companies like us to have third-party APIs to help facilitate the portability of those records. So by allowing the patients to control their data, you now open the gate for them to start creating their own marketplace, if you will, and to be able to invite the providers in.
Okay. And is it some type of distributed ledger technology?
As of now, we haven't really gone from an RDS type platform to a true Web3 technology, but that's the concept. The concept is to decentralize the health records, and there are standards for storing that data, and so we will make the leap from there to some type of, we will decide what we want to use, but what's most feasible. But the Web3 concept can be done right now just on serverless systems, RDS based.
Dr. Amos, where can folks learn more if they're interested?
Absolutely. medmatchnetwork.com.
medmatchnetwork.com. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
You're hopping on here. And next, we've got Serge Amazou, who's in the fintech space. Serge, welcome to Zombies.
Hello.
What's up, Nick? Hey, Maria. Hey, Peter. Great. Thanks for what you've shared earlier.
Cool. So what are you building and what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. So our company is Datatrix. We essentially transform accountants from data crunchers to automation experts when serving their customers. And so Datatrix ultimately for accounting firm is the central hub to automate the generation of analytical reviews and collaborate to improve margins.
And how much are you raising at the moment?
Yes, we are. We're fundraising $2 million. One of our customers has actually invested $500,000 into the company. We're at $830,000 right now in our fundraise.
Oh, wonderful.
And there's what's pretty neat progress with the MasterCard, the partnership, if I'm not mistaken. Serge, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. So we're a MasterCard StarPath company, and we have a distribution with MasterCard, which is allowing us to roll out to thousands of customers this quarter. And so it's a wonderful partnership for us that we could, we're a StarPath company, so this goes a long way for us as we work with accounting firm and financial service firms.
And what's the type of traction that you've had so far in the market?
Yeah, so we're at 53K ARR right now. So yeah, we have accounting firm using our software. Yeah, we're generating revenue.
And who are some of your competitors?
Yeah, I mean, we thought companies like Pienaar, Pride Financial, Abacom were our competitors. But with the automation that we offer our customers, this actually makes us stand out. And this is actually according to our customers, where they're coming to us because of the automation that we offer them, really helping them save time at the end of the month. We're sharing those analytical reviews with their customers because what's happening right now is, they're having to allocate additional time at the end of the month just to create analytical reviews for their customers. And what does that involve? There are spreadsheets, copying and pasting, creating charts, you name it, the things that accountants do. But with Datatrix, they go in there with a few clicks, they automate a lot of those functions that they can quickly share with their customers, thereby saving them, tremendous amount of time. So, right now they're losing almost $9,000 per senior accountant time on a monthly basis. So, this makes us different from the competition according to our own customers.
Well, it would be nice if you lead with that on the cost.
Like something to really grab.
Yeah. because I mean, again, the mistake a lot of founders make or entrepreneurs make when they pitch is they get into the tech aspects and the product aspect. And the investors are really interested in, as I say, what's the impact of the problem for whom. So yeah, you've got the data right there, and you can, I mean, you've got customers, so you can use those data points. So use them up front, because that immediately tells me, hang on, this is a good problem out there, and what's the market size that you're looking at, and then it's great to talk about your revenues where you are.
So
And then
I get a question about that, because you must have seen just thousands of pitches. What is the best first like 20 to 30 seconds look when you're getting pitched? What do you want to see as an investor?
I want to see the value proposition, a clear value proposition. So the clear value proposition always includes the problem that you're solving for whom, and obviously the scale of the problem, because I want to invest in large problems.
Sure.
Right.
Hence the unicorn.
Hence the unicorn growth, right? So yeah, hopefully we can grow a number of unicorns and camels. So the clear value proposition, and this is something very hard to really tell what the story is there. And then obviously I want to see what's the traction and what's the roadmap, some of the financials and clear competition. How do you differentiate from the competition? And then what's the ask and how you're going to use that money. But where a lot of companies miss it, they spend too much time on the product and hardly any time on the business. So I say, start loving your business. Yes, love your product, but when you talk to investors, love your business more than you love the product, and only spend very little time on the product. Just describe it sufficient so we know how it works. But really, what's the benefit to your customers, and how do you plan on scaling the number of customers from where you are, and just a little bit of your roadmap.
Yeah. So you want to cover that in 30 seconds? Ready? Go.
Yeah, I think it's. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what I'm missing here is the roadmap on top of that. So just to add that very quickly, we're in the next 6 months. We're going to be focused on our tax analysis as well for accounting firms. This is also a function that they oftentimes have to do. And so what does that mean? It means that we want to, essentially forecasting the tax position for the customers, which is something that equally takes them time to figure out, to determine how much the customers need to save ahead of time before tax season. So that's part of the roadmap. And then, in terms of milestone, the goal of this fundraising is to achieve $2 million, a little bit over $2 million ARR this year that we're projecting. And again, we're already, we're at 53K right now. We're expecting another 200K from another financial institution, another 100K from another firm that we're currently negotiating contracts. So we're already really on the way towards those goals and pushing very hard towards those metrics and milestones.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
And when there's just a couple of other aspects. So when you have key customers and brand logos, use them when you talk to investors.
Cheap cred.
And especially early growth, we bank more on team and the capability of the team. So it would be good to talk about your founding team and the experience that you bring to the table that will make you successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm actually a software engineer as well. Fortunately, I actually sold one of my first businesses at the age of 16. At the age of 21, started at 16.
Wow.
Thank you. And our engineering lead was ex-Meta, so incredible, really talented team. And then our product designer. So there's actually 3 of us right now, and our product designer is former ex-Moobert and Jamie. So incredible, really talented team with a strong vision and passion.
So Serge, if folks want to learn more, where can they check that out?
Yeah, they can go to datatricks.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Serge. Really appreciate you having shared a little bit about what you're building. So we've got a few minutes left, Maria. And I guess before we jump into conscious conversations, are there any other last minute nuggets of wisdom that you could share with our founders that are in the audience here?
Yeah, I would say stay true to your dream and vision. sometimes people may want to push you off it, but if you really show the passion for that, stay true to it, and don't get distracted by too many other things. And just, when I look at innovation, and especially open innovation, it's how you enable conversation. So that goes for your internal team as well, because a lot of the time they have a lot of good ideas and knowledge, but the voices never came in. So therefore become the scout and discoverer, even in your own company.
I like that. It's almost like making sure everybody has a voice.
Yeah, and a good way to pull those insights out is what we would say play an and game, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start, especially ideating around certain things, is enable the guys to say, all right, what I like to say about this idea, then maybe pass it over to Nick, and then Nick, you would say, this is the part I really love, and this is what I like to
It
say.
sounds improv, right?
Yeah, it's like yes and.
Yeah, we hate
So
doing
yes,
that.
and yes. So do that. It helps inspire the team. At that stage, you don't critique any of the ideas, and you'll be amazed at how you can drive either operational efficiencies or solve real problems that you don't even know where that may take you.
The crazier the better.
The crazier the better. And a lot of the time when you start on a certain track out there, a lot of the times we can't predict where it will go. So just enjoy doing what you do.
Enjoy the ride. Cool. And then so for Conscious Conversations, which kind of reels us back to the human away from the technical, we're going to have Peter.
Hopefully not the 50-year vision.
that could take a second.
Hit, stand.
Different game. Go fish.
All right, so, wow.
Well, let's have her choose, no?
Oh, okay.
Is that cool? Exactly. Just shuffle again. Exactly.
Right, let's go for the 50-year plan.
All right. Okay, cool. What is the worst job you've ever had?
The worst job you've ever. You want to put that up on the screen too?
That right
also, for anybody in the audience that wants to tune in or chime in, rather, feel free to do so. Would you like to kick us off on the worst job that you've ever had, Maria?
Yes, I was hired as a consultant, again in the early 19s, where we were looking at task to launch Night Ridder and CompuServe in South Africa. But this was with a research government organization.
CompuServe as in the
CompuServe as in the CompuServe, when you had dial-up modems and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. That's the 90s company. Like this.
Yeah, when we had to code very, very sparingly and ones and zeros.
Yeah. Back in the day when binary was a thing.
Yeah, so the thing is, they hired all these consultants and literally had nothing to do because it was more just a research grant this company had versus us doing a job. And the worst thing is you get hired to provide consulting services and strategies, and your opinions don't matter.
Wow.
So that didn't last long.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They hired you as a consultant, but they wouldn't listen to your
They
consultation.
hired 12 consultants
And they
to help
wouldn't
launch
listen
this.
to their consultation.
No.
Wow.
It sounds like super inefficient.
So,
Peter, same question.
Back in the day, I sold car wax outside of a gas station. It taught me a lot about sales, but it was the worst job I've ever had.
I think we picked this question before.
We have definitely.
Okay,
it was
okay.
actually with Boss Ray.
That's right. Yeah, head of community intel.
Yeah.
So I get, from my perspective, let's say working at Pure One Imports, just like listen to Mariah Carey, Christmas, nonstop. By the end of it, I just, it's a star boy. It's great. So they clearly peaked at Pure One Imports.
Oh yeah. Every single job we have after that doesn't compare.
Exactly.
Pure One Imports. I used to work at Fry's.
Oh, really?
Fry's Electronics.
I went to school with Erica Fry,
I have no idea who that is.
the daughter.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
hence the Fry. Yeah.
Oh.
So Maria, thank you so much for having us on. How can we, the zombie community, be helpful to what you're building?
well, obviously, we're always looking at great companies at unicorn growth.
Mhm.
And then, as I say, my other passion is to help a lot of founders, especially on their fundraising strategies.
Mhm.
And this is the other thing. You've got to have a fundraise strategy as part of your business strategy, and you've got to fund your fundraise strategy.
We should clip that. That's
yeah.
a clippable,
I like that.
clippable
Right.
moment.
We're gonna put that on the YouTube show.
And
Yeah.
so
Whatever you thought.
you've got to budget, because you're going to need certain experts, you're going to need messaging experts, you're going to need graphic guys. You really have to do that in order to stand out in this. Remember, only what's the latest stats? Less than 0.5%.
Wow.
Last time I looked, of companies actually get funding.
Right.
It's only about less than 1% that get angel funding, and the rest you.
Did that number drop from 2012?
Well, I don't think it's dropped from 2012, but that's still the pretty low. So it is highly competitive for funding out there. Although I know there's tons of money out there, dry powder, but
Yeah.
it's really gaining that attention. You've got to go above and beyond.
Right.
So make sure you budget for your fundraise.
Wise words. Wise words. I'm gonna keep this on here. And quick shout out to Nacodex.com, who are just brilliant at building the product. And also, get to work with customers, and be sure to tune in next week for more best trades in the day and beyond. We'll have Simon Lancaster from Omni Ventures and David Zhang from TCB. So thank you for joining, and until next week, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Done.